Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the 42nd Annual Hawaii International Film Festival, presented by Holly Kalani, and today's conversation with director Nardeep Khurmiis from Land of Gold. My name is Anna Page. I'm the director of programming at HIFF, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with Nardeep today and to welcome you all to one of our virtual series conversations here at the festival this year. If you have not seen this film and you would like to see it at HIFF, we have 2 screenings upcoming at the festival. That is going to be on Thursday the 10th and on Sunday the 13th, and you can go to hiff.org to find full information on those screenings. Before we get started and jump into our conversation today, I would like to introduce Liz Boylan, who is with the Vilcek Foundation. The Vilcek Foundation are our partners in presenting this film as part of our New American Perspectives program at HIFF, which is designed to spotlight the contributions of immigrants and foreign-born filmmakers to American cinema. So without further ado, here is Liz.
Thank you so much, Anna. As Anna said, the New American Perspectives program shines a spotlight on foreign-born filmmakers, celebrating the extraordinary contributions of immigrant artists to contemporary cinema and media in the United States. The program centers the voices of immigrant artists through film screenings, filmmaker Q&As, a filmmaker masterclass, and a panel discussion featuring all 5 of our 2022 New American Perspectives filmmakers. Since 2007, we've partnered with HIFF to present a program that highlights and shares the work of immigrant filmmakers, artists, and creators with the festival's audiences. It's really special for us to share this program in Hawaii, a territory, kingdom, and state that has been so profoundly shaped by human migration and immigration. The foundation was established in 2000 by Jan and Maritza Vilcek, both immigrants from former Czechoslovakia, to help honor and celebrate the many contributions immigrants make to the arts, culture, and society in the United States. We're delighted to work with Nardeep Khurmiis this year and to share his film, Land of Gold. As screenwriter, director, and an actor in the film, we're excited to hear from him about his creative work and leadership in developing this exciting and moving film. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
I'm
Liz.
excited to be part of the festival.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz, for the introduction. All right, so we're going to jump into our conversation with Nardeep. I'm going to give a little bit of further background on Nardeep before we start. Nardeep is an acclaimed writer, director, and actor hailing from Philly by way of Switzerland. His work spotlights underrepresented communities through thoughtful, socially relevant narratives and absurdist comedies. His debut feature, Land of Gold, which he wrote, directed, and stars in, won the 2021 AT&T Untold Stories Program, 2021 Fall Screencraft Film Fund, and Silver Award in Drama at the 2021 PAGE Screenwriting Awards. Welcome, Nardeep.
Thanks for having me. Man, it's always weird to hear people talk about yourself. It's weird.
I can imagine. I think I would be. It's rare that I'm on the receiving end of that, but I think that I would agree.
I'll never get used to it. I'll never get used to it.
Well, congratulations on your first feature. This is a big deal, and this is a really amazing film. I love the film. It's one of my favorite in the lineup of our whole program this year. So I wanted to start by if you could tell us a little bit more about, you wrote the film as well as starred in it. So I wanted to find out a little bit more about the inspiration for the story and the background.
Yeah, so I started developing the project in 2019, and I was really preoccupied by a lot of friends who were starting to have kids for the first time. A lot of friends of mine who were about to be parents, and the sort of fear associated with being a parent, a new parent in the world that we're kind of living in. And I started thinking about my older brother and when he had kids and the struggles he's had and sort of joys he's had with my niece and nephew. And I started thinking about myself and like, what would I do when I have kids? Like, what are the challenges I'm about to be facing as a future young father to raise a brown kid in America? And around the same time, I started seeing all these news stories and reports. I'm sure you'll remember of these kids separated from their families at the border, and just really inhumane, unempathetic kind of decision that the government had done to as a political point, basically. And I was just heartbroken, and I I couldn't I couldn't run away from these images of these kids that were just traumatized for no fault of their own, for their parents just wanting a better life for them. And I just started asking that question, what is it to be a brown parent in America nowadays? It doesn't matter what kind of brown you are, but like there's always challenges faced for us in terms of what do we teach our kids, how do they have to act in certain situations? How do they have to, what can they believe they can do? Especially like if
Mhm.
you're undocumented, what are
Mhm.
those limitations that you have to just unfortunately face because of the legal system that we're in and the kind of precarious position that those folks are put in. So those were kind of like the big inspirations for how Land of Gold began.
Wow, I really I feel that this is a really important story to tell, and I feel like you told a really intimate human drama, using that as the backdrop to really connect with what it means to be a child in one of these in this circumstance. As the public, we see it and we're affected by it, but we don't have that intimate personal connection, and I feel like that's what
Yeah.
you express through Land of Gold. Um,
That I appreciate that. Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Like, I like to talk about the film as being an empathy machine, where
mhm,
you can't you can't hate something you know. And by getting to know these characters, there's no fundamental way that you can dislike them because it's like, hey, I know what you're going through. I may not like you, but I can't hate you.
mhm,
Just putting a face to a statistic, I think goes so far in terms of our understanding of what these problems are because they're complex, complicated problems, and it's so easy to divorce the humanity from them. But
mhm,
that's something we were trying to do with this film is bring that humanity back and say and
mhm,
show audiences like, hey, these are normal people. They're living normal lives and they want the same things you want. It's just they're in a situation that is just really complicated and
yeah.
just needs a really empathetic perspective and point of view to be able to get through.
Mhm, mhm. Definitely, definitely. I think one of the other pieces that I really love about the film is that there is that that cross-cultural interaction between the two main characters through their journey. I love there's different sort of, not to give too many spoiler alerts away, but I do love parts on their journey where they're eating at different restaurants, where they go to the Sikh temple. I think it's that truck stop,
Yeah.
and I love those interactions that bring that sort of cross cultural dynamic into play. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about the importance of including those elements in the film as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different sort of answers to this. I'll try and pack it all at once. But the previous thing I said about this idea of empathy, right? Like a lot of times we think it's always like white and black or white against POC, underrepresented communities, whatever. But it's also within communities, this
Mm-hmm.
misunderstanding. And, something I was realizing was within my own South Asian community was a kind of unempathetic response to the undocumented situation or an misunderstanding of like, what Mexican culture is or what Black culture is, and it happens vice versa. So I really love this idea that these two communities, these two people from these two separate communities who seemingly have no similarity, no relation to each other, can share all of that and realize, oh man, we're basically just doing the same thing here. And then like, but I'm eating a burrito and you're eating a roti, and we both believe in we have God, but we pray in different ways, and they're kind of similar but also different. And you know, there's just so many similarities that it's hard to ignore. And then the other beautiful thing I think about it is, you're asking about inspirations for the film. In sort of my research of expanding South Asian representation and what is our narrative in America, I stumbled across this beautiful untold story. So maybe it's a future project about this during the Asian Exclusion Act, another immigration ban in
Mm-hmm.
America. In the 1900s, the Punjabi community had started immigrating to America. That was like the first South Asian
Mm-hmm.
immigration to America. And around the same time, Mexican migrants had started moving into California. and the West Coast. And during the Asian Exclusion Act, you have the Mexican and the Punjabi communities intermarrying and forming this really beautiful hybrid Punjabi Mexican
Wow.
culture that is a direct result of that Asian Exclusion Act. And so, like, if you go to Southern California, Central California, like the the Central Valley, you'll see like Mexican Punjabi hybrid restaurants, or you can see videos of like Punjabi quinceañeras, and like, like
Yeah.
it's really, really beautiful and interesting. And the culturally, they bonded over a similar agrarian lifestyle. And I was just like, how American is that, right? These two communities, disenfranchised, coming together to find their piece of the pie. And I really wanted to honor that in Land of Gold, especially again when we were when we're living in such a divided political climate. And minorities, people of color, are often pitted against each other politically. Even though even though like we should be banded together, we're often politicized to be separated. So that was sort of my homage to this rich history in the United States that like very few people know about.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know about that either. And I think, especially in Hawaii, what we are very aware of a lot of the history of things like the Chinese Exclusion Act and other things that happened, racist measures. But
Yeah.
I did not know about this unique thing, cultural melding that happened as a result of that. And I think that's very, very
Yeah.
cool.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know about it until I started doing research, and I was like, what? This is crazy. Because you think, like that Exclusion Act was specifically targeted towards Chinese and Japanese business folks who were buying land, and and then, oh yeah, Indians are from Asia. Yeah, of course they were also banned. And then this weird, beautiful thing formed. It's like, it's so American. It's just like, through adversity, and Land of Gold is this. Through adversity, there is beauty and there is hope, even through the trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that the performances are fantastic, both from you and also your co-star Caroline Valencia, who plays Elena. She's
incredible.
amazing. She's amazing,
Yeah.
and I think there's a really great balance of drama and comedy. There's also a lot of really funny, lighthearted moments between the two characters. I wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit about your process as you were multitasking as both director and actor, and also a little bit about how you cast Elena and working with Caroline.
Yeah, I basically ignored all of the film school rules of like how to make a first feature, except for working with animals. But I work with kids. I acted my own thing. I did all the things wrong. I was able to do wear all the hats because of this beautiful team that we put together. I had an incredible producing team. Kirtana Sastry, Pallavi Sastry, Simon Tofik, like they backed me up, and we built an incredible team. I had full trust that everything was happening and everyone accomplished everything we needed to do. My cinematographer, Chris Lowe, he and I have known each other since college. Like, it's been a while. We've worked together a lot. And I knew that we could have those conversations, and there was no babysitting. Like, he gets it. Having that trust in your crew and your collaborators and your producing unit, I think gave me the freedom to be doing the acting and the directing at the same time. As an actor, we had an acting coach on set, Kate Kugler, who was there to kind of be like on monitor for me and like whisper notes here and there. Like, it was really, really great. And she was also there for Caroline, if Caroline needed it, and create a safe space for her. And Caroline was 9 when we filmed this, so I wanted to make sure that the set wasn't overwhelming her. And if I was pulled away from directing to be an actor, or acting to be a director or producer or whatever, rewrite something, she had a safe place to go to. So Kate was like our kind of bubble. The three of us were kind of like a bubble of like in the set. As far as Caroline Valencia, I mean, I'm excited for all of you to see this film because she is a superstar. And I credit Kirtana Sastry, who was one of our producers and also our casting director. She found her in a national search. And we did we did many auditions. We met so many talented young actors, and Caroline was it. There was a moment we did, and it was all during, we all did the audition process was all through Zoom because
Wow.
it was during COVID.
Mhm.
So I remember our final read was a chemistry read between her and me, and she finished it, and we were all just silent on the Zoom. And I think it was Pallavi was just like, she's a star, and we were all like, yeah, we have our Elena. And then I even rewrote the scene based off of the improv that we did in that chemistry read, because she just
Wow.
was so, she just embodied it so beautifully. Yeah, wearing all those hats, it's, you surround yourself with the best people you possibly can, and we did. When I have someone like Caroline Valencia to act with, it's easy. And then having the team to support me to be able to do this ridiculous thing that I tried to do, is what gave me the confidence and the support to do it. So it's a testament to everyone who made the film that I was able
Mhm.
to even think about doing this.
Taking on all the roles. I think
Yeah.
because there's a different level of trust that you need to have with trust of your crew when
Yeah.
you are wearing all these hats. Because
Yeah.
of course, if you basically are turning over uh, a lot of that to your cinematographer because
Yeah.
you can't be behind the monitor in front of the camera at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I do often say, and I say this to Chris Lowe, our cinematographer, and he gets bashful about it, and he's like, "No, it's not true," but it is true. I don't think I would have been able to make this movie the way I did without him. He's such a central collaborator, and I trust him so like truly that
Mm-hmm.
we'd set up a shot, and I'd be like, "Yeah, we're good. Like, shoot
Mm-hmm.
it," and like the way he moves the camera, the way he feels a scene, it's we're so in sync there that it's just like, if there was another collaborator on this project, I don't think it would have been as seamless, because I just have so much trust in him that he knows what I'm trying to do. He knows the texture. He knows those
Mm-hmm.
details. There's a lot of details in the film, and he just knows how to capture them. He'll see them. You know, okay, I can share this story.
Okay.
So we had wrapped production in Oklahoma. The sun is setting. It's just like, it's this gorgeous sunset. I'm crying. I did a speech, and we're doing the group photo for the cast and crew that was in Oklahoma. We're on the side of the road on the 40, the sun's setting, and I'm looking at this thing, and Chris is right next, like right below me, kneeling with the camera, and he looks up at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, yeah, I see it. And we just broke this like photo because we both saw the same thing at the same time. And then like the grip team and the gaff team, like we scrambled to get this gorgeous shot that's in the movie, and it's the silhouette of just the two of us sitting in the corrugated like park bench on the side of the road. And it's just this stunning, striking image. And that was like
Mm-hmm.
the case throughout the shoot, where it just like we would see it almost at the same time, and then it's just like, great, go do it. There's no conversation
Yeah.
needed. We both
Yeah.
get what it's supposed to look like and feel like. So again, just a testament to the team, and being able to trust my collaborators, because they're all much smarter than me.
That's you have a certain level of synchronicity I think
Yeah.
with the team
Yeah.
that's really incredible. um well, it's a fantastic film. It's also, it's also a road movie, and you mentioned that you shot in Oklahoma. I was wondering
Yeah.
if there were any specific challenges with shooting a film like this that is a lot of road scenes and truck stops.
Yeah, I mean, look, we were very fortunate in that the way we were able to make this film was through the AT&T Untold Stories program, and with that, we were able to get a really substantial, nice budget for an indie road trip drama, right? And but it's never enough. No matter what money you have, it's never enough, right? That's the story as old as time. Filming in Oklahoma was amazing. The people opened up their arms, their hearts. We got these beautiful locations, these restaurants, these dabbas, the Gurdwara, the Sikh temple you were talking about.
Hmm.
We got these amazing locations. Went to Boston for a day to shoot a pivotal sequence
Mm.
that will not be named on this call, but
Yeah.
but it was pretty amazing. I would say the challenge in pre-production was, how are we going to do these driving sequences with a semi truck? Like, there's no safe way to do this. I can get licensed, but there's no way we can get insured for me driving a semi with a 9-year-old and a camera guy and a sound guy, and like drive the truck. And then what are we going to loop it around? And then artistically, there's no way to control the light or weather. And we're in Oklahoma. There's tornadoes. Like, what happens if we lose a day? We're on a micro budget here. Like, what are we, like a low budget? Like, what are we going to be doing? So that challenge, though, opened up this amazing opportunity to work with the Cherokee Nation. So the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma has a studio in Owasso.
Wow.
And they have a full volume XR studio. And we got connected with them, and they opened up their doors, and we were the first non-Cherokee Nation film to shoot there. And we basically shot all our driving sequences. This is a spoiler alert. So when you see the film, hopefully you don't look for it, but hopefully you're watching this after you've seen the film. But all those driving sequences were done inside a studio on an LED wall. And the night sequence on top of the trailer with a telescope was also done on that LED wall. So like the major production challenge of like, how the hell do we do the road trip was all done in studio with plates and with this LED wall. And then suddenly, like, the safety issues were gone with the crew and the cast, and the creativity. Suddenly, like, we could be more creative with like, oh, well, let's choose sunset for this scene and let's go shoot a sunset plate, and so the challenge of how do you do a semi-truck road trip wound up becoming like the best solution for the film in like the best possible way. And then obviously, like, the regular challenges that indie movies face, which is like, how do you shoot 5 scenes a day with a location move? Like, basic, the basic stuff of like, okay, cool.
Yeah. But I love that story. And I think it's really incredible that the Cherokee community opened their doors for you in that way. I think that's a really beautiful turn of events.
For this movie about community and building community and across cultures, about hyphenate Americans, like a first-gen American, an undocumented American, to do it with Indigenous Americans, First Nations folks, and like it just feels like the most American way to make this movie, with literally like all of these folks that make the fabric of this country real. It really just was like, it's a miracle to make anything. And all of these little miracles were happening through the course of production, and the Cherokee Nation and their involvement and their generosity is a big part of that.
That's wonderful. I really, really do love that. Switching a little bit of gears, further into your background.
Sure.
I wanted to find out a little bit more. So, of course, you have a background in acting and directing and screenwriting, and you do have many things, multi-hyphenate. You have quite an extensive acting background in television, as well as some experiences directing for television and a number of short films. I wanted to find out a little bit more about what inspires you to pursue a career in filmmaking. Were there any specific projects, films, or people that inspired you? And as an actor and director, what came first?
So let's get personal. Growing up as a kid in white America, it was really hard for me to make friends. I was an immigrant, and I was thrown into school and in these weird parts of the year where everyone had already gotten their groups, and I just didn't really fit in. And there was a moment where I realized that if I could make people laugh, I could become friends. So I just started I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a class clown. So I started like embracing comedy and humor and things like that, which inevitably led to drama club and led to the Shakespeare Club and led to doing the musicals and performing. And I was able to kind of discover my identity through performance in a weird way, and own, what I wanted to be. I think, as like one of the few POCs in my school, I like at a young age, maybe this is precocious of me, I didn't want to be known for something I wasn't in control of. I wanted to be known for what I wanted to be known for. Like, yes, I'm an Indian American, but also I'm the student council president, or I'm this character in the musical, or I'm like you're going to know me for what I want you to know me for, right? In addition to the things that I am obviously, visibly. Um, so that led me into the musicals and to community theater. And there was a moment where I realized that I was beholden to the narratives that I was getting cast in. I was beholden to the narratives that other people were deciding for me. And not that I lacked South Asian representation growing up. Grew up on a steady diet of Bollywood, but I was aware that the only Indian dude I see in movies is played by Fisher Stevens,
Mhm.
who is not a South Asian man,
Yeah. Yeah.
or yeah, or Peter Sellers,
Yeah.
Um, so around the same time, I was really into photography, and we had a video applications class in school where we learned how to use a video camera and edit. And I was like, oh, clicked. I could tell my own stories. I have the power to write my own narratives and shoot them. I could be in them if I wanted. I could have other people be in them. And that's kind of where the filmmaking thing kind of came, where I realized that I love performing, but I also want to be in control of the narrative and
Mhm.
share my story, but also share my friends' stories, share my family stories, share stories where it has nothing to do with me, but just someone that looks like me is in it. Like, why can't Superman be black or brown, or so that's kind of how I kind of got into filmmaking. It was less like I saw something. It was more like, oh, I'm doing these things, and how can I manipulate this to do the thing I wanted to do even more. So I
Mhm.
got into filmmaking and went into film school, and then uh, being exposed to international cinema that wasn't South Asian cinema was really, really huge for me. Like seeing Ikiru for the first time by Kira Kurosawa, and
Mhm.
I was like, holy
Mhm.
moly, has so much depth. And then seeing In the Mood for Love for the first time, I can't count how many times I've seen that movie, or Chungking Express, or
Mhm.
seeing different cultures tell their stories that were obviously culturally influenced, but they're just telling stories of people. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, we can do this. We can do this. I can make culturally specific stories that are just about people, that don't necessarily have to be about the thing, what we're told the thing is. I'm rambling a little bit, but
No, no, I get it.
that's
I
kind of
get
how,
it.
yeah, that's kind of how I
Yeah.
fell into it, and that's my
Yeah.
brain is kind of it's a mix of acting and writing and directing. They all kind of feed each other in different ways, and different projects require me to do different things. So, but yeah, it started from, my mom has this photo of me in kindergarten. Apparently we did a play about penguins, and I was the outcast penguin wearing a floral Hawaiian style shirt, and I was like that was the outcast penguin in kindergarten. So I think I've always been telling stories of these folks. I just didn't realize it. And now it's like, all right, let me be in control of it and not be beholden to someone else telling it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I think nowadays, of course, especially I think even in the last, it's become even more commonplace in the last 5 years. There's a lot more diversity on screen.
Yeah.
Even in the last 10 years, is a lot more diversity. But going back to that period of time in the '90s, it's like we forget that how white and how sort of our television and movies were it wasn't a thing. There wasn't there wasn't
No,
a lot
it
of
wasn't a
diversity on
thing.
screen. No.
No, I mean, my hero, I mean, is watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was the first time I was like, oh yeah, there's a person of color that's a nerd, and
Yeah.
but still cool. I was like, that fits. But even now, right, there's so much progress, and it's so beautiful. You go to the
Mhm.
cinema, you can watch TV, and there's all this color and all these stories, and it's beautiful. But even then, we still have this opportunity to diversify the stories we're telling, because I feel like within all of that, it's like, okay, now we're getting our piece of the pie. Now let's break that pie open, and let's see all the different flavors and ingredients in it. So it's like, the thing I'm really excited about now is that, you know, so many people are getting opportunities to tell stories, and now it's like, where are the nuances within those stories? It's like, okay, we're telling our parents' immigrant story, but now it's like, okay, but where's the nuance that comes after that? How do we unpack this? And that's the
Mhm.
thing I'm really excited about seeing right now. It's like, it's not just that we're seeing the representation, it's that we're seeing the representation explode in all these. It's like the bouquet is so rich,
Mhm.
and there's
Mhm.
so many different perspectives, and it's, you know I feel like, as filmmakers of color, we often are like, our film has to speak, or our piece has to speak for all experience within our community. which is
Mm-hmm.
like a very heavy load to burden, and that's been what it's been for a while. And
And
now
it's
it's not the case
impossible.
like that. It's impossible, and
It's
you're gonna
impossible.
make someone upset because it's like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't do this thing. Well, it's like I did all the other stuff. Like, how could I do that one thing? But now it's like, hey, you can tell your specific story because you realize that's just one part of that experience, and the experience has so many colors to it. So it's like, let's start painting with all the brushes.
Yeah, yeah. I think moving beyond stories that have to be told in a specific cultural way,
Yeah,
that they can just be a drama, a family drama, an intimate
yeah,
story of people. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be fit into a certain box or look a certain
yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's very, very exciting. It's like they don't all like I mean, Land of Gold also has trauma in it, but it's not I'd like to say it's not about the trauma, it's about the effects of trauma. And like to me, I'm like, that's an expansion of it. So it's like our stories don't have to
Hmm.
be like watch us suffer on screen. It's like, yeah, we suffered. Now let's see how we unpack that suffering and process it. Like we're going to therapy now, so let's figure this out.
I think that segues into like, what I wanted to find out a little bit more about, what is inspiring to you now as a filmmaker, what stories you want to tell. And I think we've covered that a little bit
Yeah.
in talking about these sort of the diverse modes of storytelling within a framework, that framework. And you mentioned earlier that you're working on a project to do with the Mexican Punjabi community in California, but in general, is there any other specific types of stories that you're looking to tell, or is there a specific um, message or inspiration that you're trying to share? I don't know. That's not the best way to put
Yeah.
that, but
Gosh, I made one feature film and now I'm like, oh, what is the themes? Yeah. I like it's okay. So this is like welcome to like the last year of my life. Who am I as a filmmaker? What is my artistic voice? Um, I want to tell stories that are filled with empathy and hope that let people see cultures and experiences that they may not be familiar with and connect to them in some way, shape, or form. Uh, Generational trauma and unpacking generational trauma is a big thing for me. Land of Gold is very much of like, you know,
mm-hmm,
there's trauma passed on through family, and how do you move on from that and do better for the next generation? So Land of Gold follows that, and a lot of my work, I think, it follows that at this point. Uh, I'm working on a mini series adaptation of a manga from
oh,
Japan that is which I'm very excited about. That is, you know, it's a high school romance, but it's also unpacking this trauma and how do you move on from that and see the world in a beautiful way and experience life the same way. I'm working on something that's about a sailor trapped on a ship for an extended period of time because of a bureaucratic mess up, and like I think what interests me, I'm like talking in circles right now. This is very uneloquent of me, but human connection, in
mm-hmm,
addition to all that other stuff I talked about, just like it's so easy to connect with people nowadays with technology but making genuine connection, I think, is still just as difficult as it was before. If anything, it might be even more difficult because we have the
mm-hmm,
veneer of knowing and of connection. So I think what I'm interested in exploring right now is how do we make those connections with the people in our community and people outside of our community,
mm-hmm,
and how do
mm-hmm,
we use those connections to grow and become better, become happier people. That's not about taking, it's about giving,
mm-hmm,
um, and
mm-hmm.
healing together, because I think together we can heal, but if you're solitary it's really hard to heal things because you just kind of get stuck in that soup. um, so yeah, I don't know. I hope that answered your
No,
question.
no, it did, and I love that. I think fundamentally relationships are really important to us as
Yeah.
humans, and I think that also everything that you just said is really at the core of Land of Gold. I mean, at the end of the day, take away everything else, it's about two people connecting in a deep way,
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I
an unexpected
appreciate that.
way.
Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think obviously social messaging is really important to me, and talking about issues like Land of Gold also has like, it tackles a lot of like very
Mhm.
intense issues. And I think something that I'm excited about is, again, like going along with that, putting a face to a statistic, is like, how can we backhandedly educate audiences and inform audiences of these complex ideas through really like intimate storytelling, right? Like,
Mhm.
I am very interested in that. Like, how can we talk about global political movements and things, but tell it through like a father-child, father-daughter story, or like these small family things, because
Mhm.
everyone can understand that, right? We all have families in some way, shape, or form, found, born into, whatever. And, you know, if you can use those sort of really sort of archetypical gut things that we all feel to explore these larger issues in the background, I don't know. I think there's a lot to gain from that. So I'm excited to keep exploring that and refine that, and figure out other ways to explore like the sort of sociopolitical things I'm obsessed with in
Mhm.
these intimate
Mhm.
ways.
Mhm. Well, that's amazing, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. It sounds like you have a lot of projects in the works, so
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's
a
been
more
busy.
like diverse set of projects as well, which is great. So I'm staying tuned to what comes next for you. I think on that note, we're pretty much out of time for today's Q&A. But if you are watching and you have not yet seen Land of Gold, you can come down to Kahala Theaters. We'll be there on the 10th and 13th, and Nardeep will be joining us in person. We'll also have a panel discussion with Nardeep and all of the other New American perspective filmmakers. That'll be Saturday the 12th at 1 p.m. and that is free. So come on down, check it out. And for more information on this film and for all of the New American perspective films and for all of the films at HIFF.org, I mean, the film festival this year, go to HIFF.org. That's where you can find all the information. And a big mahalo to the Vilchek Foundation, again, our partner in presenting this program this year. So thank you all so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.